Hello, I'm Enzo, and ever since my legendary only run of Borderlands the pre-sequel, I've wanted to play it again, both because I love this game, it's just amazing, and because Athena was an insane amount of fun to play. This run combines those two, and my goal of reaching max level and beating the endgame of all of the Borderlands games. With all of that said, I'll be going through the first 3 playthroughs. Not speedrunning per se, but going through them faster than usual. Since I can use anything for this run, the game is far easier than other runs. And in my Borderlands 2 OP10 run, I had a general plan of what I wanted for my build, but for this run, I only had one item that I wanted in mind. The rest was kind of researched over the entire duration of the run, figuring out what worked best and what felt fun to use. My final loadout was extremely interesting and had a super cool surprise drop. With the ability to do and use whatever I want in this run, it shouldn't be hard to guess that the game is gonna be the same as a normal pre-sequel run. With that knowledge, I'm running through it pretty quick because it's actually not that bad. I always thought pre-sequel was very difficult, but I've gotten way better at playing it. And Athena might just be broken. You might see that later on. Nothing too special happened in the early game. I was just doing all of the side quests as usual, naturally getting the Invigoration Oz kit because the healing from oxygen canisters is amazing. Absolutely just wiped the floor with Deadlift. I don't know how I used to have such a horrible time with him, yet I've been crushing him in every run, at least on this channel. It's kinda crazy. Since I have 3 playthroughs I need to complete before we get to the real run, I'm going to try and speed run this video a bit. If you haven't seen how all the missions in pre-sequel go, this is probably not the video to watch for that, because I'm going to be skipping through it very quickly. The Empty Billabong is always a mission I do, both because it's extremely fun, like the dialogue in it is so funny, and of course, Kragan XP. You get a lot of Kragans here, so a lot of XP. Great for early game. Since you haven't gotten to see much of this run yet, I haven't mentioned just how broken Athena is. She is easily my favorite Vault Hunter in this game just because she's powerful. The Aspis can absorb pretty much any type of damage in the game. Like in the Legendary Only run, I started building the right tree. The issue is, in the Legendary Only run, I didn't get a shock or fire weapon to actually start stacking Maelstrom. Now that I can use shock and fire weapons, I am so much more powerful. It is just so much fun. On stream, I was joking around and saying, imagine if I got a flacker first try here, and wouldn't you know it, the game gods just dropped me a first time flacker. It's not even that great on Athena, it's just so stupid that I have to use it. Combat up to this point has been relatively easy. In the Dull Trainer though, it gets a whole lot difficult because the enemies are getting to my level and sometimes over leveled, which is a major problem. As long as I keep going slow and steady, don't do anything too stupid, it's actually pretty decent. There's also the flacker swapping, where you swap away to immediately shoot the flacker again. It's a little bit cheesy sometimes, but hey, anything goes in this run, so I might as well use it for once. Round 3 unfortunately was my limit though, because it was getting too difficult at this point. I knew I'd need better gear if I wanted to get to the next few levels, especially because I knew those 2 would be even higher level enemies. This is the part that gives me flashbacks to the Legendary Only run, when I jumped into the lava to try to get the Skull Masher, but failed. Thankfully, this time it succeeded, and I got those 4 Moonstones. The death probably wasn't worth it, but oh well. Moonstones. On to the bosun. The fight was a piece of cake. The only issue I really had was destroying his shield generators, because it appears that I didn't get Maelstrom stacks from shooting them with the shock shotgun, which it didn't dawn on me at that point, but shotguns are amazing on Athena. I'll tell you guys why near the end of the video once I start explaining how Athena actually works, because we still just need to get through the game. Once I got the generators down though, he was a piece of cake. Yeah, this weapon's pretty good. After the Drakensberg, I came back and completed round 5 of the doll I said trainer earlier, but arena, same thing. The shield was worse than mine though, so I didn't need it. And my absolute favorite part of the game, you'll know especially if you watch my streams, the turret calibration section. I love this part of the game. I totally don't want to find whoever made this section and have a conversation with them. No, not at all. It's a very fun and good part of the game. Absolutely necessary to the plot as well. That was the only problem of this level though. The Felicity fight itself is kind of a joke with this build, honestly. Maelstrom is just so ridiculously overpowered, especially if you get Tesla grenades, shock shotguns, stuff like that. Yeah, this made it just trivial, which is very nice for a change, because this fight can sometimes be pretty difficult if you're not careful. And the best part is any bullets ricocheted can also be absorbed by my Aspis, Athena's shield, and that will happen a lot throughout this run, but I'll get into more detail again at the end. In a lot of Borderlands runs, an important part of the full playthrough is routing, figuring out what gear you're going to use when. And since I hadn't figured out my final build yet, I've been kind of just going with the flow. But the Vibropulse will carry me for a very long time. Otherwise, I've just been using whatever shock weapons I could find, as that's kind of my best bet. And as much as I love the sub-level 13 mission, especially the E-gun that you get from it, I won't be using that as part of my final build because it's actually non-elemental. I think it's the only non-elemental laser in the game, because even the Minax Atonement, it doesn't show it has an element, but it does use shock, fire, and corrosive. So yeah, this is the only non-elemental one. That's obviously an issue because I need a shock or fire weapon for Athena's Maelstrom skill. I also haven't mentioned just how powerful the Vibropulse is. As a bonus, I got an old Painful, which is an insanely powerful assault rifle that fires laser projectiles, but for the cost of assault rifle ammo. Anyways, this combo is just insane and made research and development extremely easy. Needless to say, I'm still just chewing through both the enemies and the story of this game. Not much else to note. In a very rare twist of events, I actually had a good idea. So if you've seen my Borderlands 2 with respawning enemies video, and I'll just show the code here on stream, but pretty much you enable the developer console, you put that code in before you start your game, and most enemies respawn. It's still a bit wonky, but whatever. I use this respawning enemies ability to farm Corporal Bob. He's an extremely annoying farm otherwise, and I definitely wouldn't have done this without respawning enemies, especially because of pre-sequel's non-existent drop rates. But I was farming him for a legendary Oz kit called the Ak. For now, I think I'm using the Invigorating Oz kit still, or just a random Oz kit, I guess. But the Ak makes airborne enemies extremely easy, because it gives you fire rate, reload speed, and it spawns flak around them. It's not absolutely necessary, but it will make some areas of the game later on way easier. Considering I can get him to respawn, I thought, might as well. This is also a great source of green weapons, not that you want those, but moonstones as well, which is very nice. That was not the intended purpose of this farm, but just a side product. Everybody hates the veins of Helios. I don't think it's actually that bad. It's definitely not a great level, it's just really confusing to get around. The combat is actually pretty nice, especially because I'm so powerful. And every time I play this game, because I do most of the side quests for the XP, it's always a little weird how I relate to Dean in more ways than one. Like other people winning board games over me, yeah, I just cannot do that. I will flip out if that ever happens. Which is probably not a great sign, but oh well. As you can see, I've been using the exact same class mod for a super long time now. That's a slight issue. But after research and development, and I really should have done this right after I completed the mission, but I decided to go back and farm the X stock. With respawning code, he conveniently respawns, making him a way easier farm than usual. This is great because even though the class mod isn't the one I'm looking for, it's probably like the second best class mod I can get, for now at least. Either way though, that is a pretty good upgrade. Through the Moon, besides being both a fun and funny mission, is also a great source of, funnily enough, XP, but also an amazing upgrade for my shield, because those are pretty rare. Unfortunately, Pre-Sequel doesn't have an insane amount of shields in the first place, and none that are insanely good. Now it's time for, actually, my favorite minigame. Shoot the blue, don't shoot the red. 1, 2, and 3. Awesome. All 3 first try. So normal mode went perfectly, but unfortunately I failed true and ultimate Vault Hunter mode. On to Zarpedon. Well, the footage kinda speaks for itself. Yeah, it was pretty easy, which is another rare chain of events, but it's definitely welcome because Zarpedon always gives me, and pretty much everyone else, a super hard time. Yeah, Moxie's Vibro Pulse might be a little bit broken, both in terms of damage and then stacking Maelstrom, which increases its damage, so on and so forth. The best part of this was the fact she dropped the Prismatic Bulwark, which is awesome because that's both a decent upgrade to my shield and some laser damage resistance, which is very nice. The main reason I was farming for the Ak Oz kit earlier is for this fight, and as you can see, it's pretty good. Considering it's made to counter flying enemies, yeah, it's pretty good against them to say the least. Farming it is definitely not a good idea if you don't have the ability to use that code, because it would just take way too long. But if you really want to use something like that, you can find a Clear Skies Oz kit, as it's not the exact same, but it gives, I think, just damage instead of fire rate and reload speed to flying enemies. Either way, it was very helpful to make a usually annoying fight very easy.
I love what they've done with the blades. Very not freaking human at all.
Besides being an awesome secret area, this place is, well, great for XP, and where I usually get to level 26, which in the pre-sequel, that's when you can get the keystone, or at least I think that's what it's called, you know, the skill all the way at the bottom of your tree. Unfortunately, Athena's keystone skill for her right tree is pretty bad, almost like gauges. When you slam, it has a long cooldown, it tethers enemies very close to you, trust me, they have to be like right next to you for it to work, and it does shock tasers to them, which is pretty nice, and if they die or the tether runs out, it creates a fire nova explosion. Overall, it gives you a ton of Maelstrom stacks, but isn't like the craziest keystone ever. It's actually kind of garbage, but might as well get it because we're here. Finally, the Sentinel. Now, in terms of difficulty, the Sentinel wasn't bad at all. Like I've been saying, and I will say this entire run, this build's just broken, so the fight was pretty easy. The weird thing was, in her first phase, where she has that weapon and does the bullet reflect attack, it seems throughout all the times I fought her, she would only do that attack. Like with all of my weapons too. I don't know how the programming works when it chooses when she uses it or not, but I feel like she was using that most of the time against me, and it was insanely annoying. The only good side is that Athena's Aspis, like I said earlier, can absorb that damage that's ricocheted normally back at me. So it technically does buff me, it's just annoying because I can't actually damage her during that time. Just a minor inconvenience though, the fight itself was really easy. Somehow, the second attempt, when I was trying to farm her, went even worse than the first. I guess that's just a super unlucky death. With that, I decided to go and farm everybody's favorite, Iwajira. Despite being 3 levels over me, Old Painful, Maelstrom, and of course Aspis make this fight extremely easy. This combination actually makes most things extremely easy. Athena is not balanced. So I'll be farming Iwajira for a while, both for XP and maybe some cool drops. Hopefully. I think Iwajira's female, I believe, drop rates were nerfed and like gutted a while ago. So you can't get crazy good drops from her anymore, but still a decent moonstone and some rare item farm. Now that I'm level 30 and didn't get anything good from Iwajira, it's naturally time to do my favorite DLC pretty much ever, Claptastic Voyage. Starting out, I saved 200 of the moonstones from farming Iwajira to complete this mission to give you some, not free obviously, but some glitch weapons, which is great for starting out the DLC. Unfortunately, none of them were elemental, so I'll be sticking to this. I think it's a white rarity blaster. It's still just that broken. As powerful as Athena is, if I don't have shock or fire damage to proc Maelstrom, which is the tree I am fully spec'd into at the moment, it is quite a bit difficult. And Claptastic Voyage is a hard DLC on its own, especially if you're underleveled. It might have been smart to farm to level 31, but that would have taken a long time. So I'll just endure this difficulty for now. It's actually nice to have a challenge for once in this run. Overlook, besides being an awesome level, has some of the best music in the game. Well, honestly, all of the pre-sequel has just an amazing soundtrack, but the It's Clappy song, the Overlook combat theme once you've gotten all the enemies to spawn here, just an amazing place. Until, of course, the denial subroutine. Overall, the fight wasn't that bad. I'm not using a shock or fire weapon, well, right now, but this SMG was extremely powerful. The fight being relatively easy is nice because I generally struggle a lot with this fight. It is pretty difficult. So there's that fight. And if you've seen any of my pre-sequel videos before this, you'll know my favorite part. It just works so perfectly. I really love whoever decided to put that in the game.
Wow, system really crashed. Maybe you're not supposed to be in there.
Now that I've gotten to the subconscious, I can get to core, which is the most important gear. I can get items. The first one is the Shield of Ages. It's like a turtle shield, but on steroids. It's literally the tankiest shield you can get in the game. And that's important because I need as much shield as possible because of how it interacts with all of Athena's skills. She does have some health regeneration, but it's terrible. So shield is the focus here. And, of course, from the Legendary only run, I knew I wanted the Thunderfire. Shock and fire damage, both of which proc Maelstrom, with an incredibly powerful laser. Yeah, I'm going to need that. Farming despair and self-loathing is always an absolute pain, especially because I think it's only self-loathing that drops it. One drops the Meganade, one drops the Thunderfire. I thought it was both at first, but no, so the drop rates are even worse then. It's a 10%, supposedly, but we all know how pre-sequel drop rates work, so I'll be here for a little bit. A while later, I finally managed to get one to drop. That's awesome. I tried to farm a better one many times throughout this run, but I never got the perfect parts, because I had to look up a picture for the parts reference and everything, but yeah, I don't think I ever got a really good Thunderfire. Someday, I'd like to farm for a God Roll one, but that's just gonna take so long that that'll probably be years in the future when I literally have nothing else left to do. Still, amazing find, and I can continue on with the DLC. Since combat has been going at a pretty good pace so far, you can only imagine how much faster it gets with just how powerful the Thunderfire is. Shadowtrap's first fight is the easiest out of, let's say, all 3 phases technically, because he has 3 forms, but I usually struggle with this one the most, funnily enough. Even though he has a red health bar, I think he is technically armor, so shock is definitely better. That's why I swap occasionally to this shock shotgun I got from the denial subroutine. Either way, it's always nice when a fight goes extremely smooth and easy like this. onto Eclipse, which I think might actually have been the most difficult Shadow Trap phase for me. That's mostly because it's a giant mech. I don't really have any counters to it. At least with Eos, I have the Ak and I can stack an insane amount of fire rate and damage onto him. But in this phase, he does crazy damage, and a lot of it comes from shock, which is an issue because all of my health, well, okay, damage like threshold, I guess, is in my shield. So if my shield dies, I am pretty much dead, unless I have health gate, which I do most of the time, but long story short, yeah, I have to keep my shield up at all times. Thankfully, there are always bugs on the map, so you have a second wind available, and kill skills, which is another great thing about this fight, but I don't have any other amazing shock or corrosive weapons for this phase, so the Thunderfire is gonna be my main weapon for now. The third and final phase of Shadow Trap is, of course, Eos. Eos used to be insanely difficult for me before I discovered the Ak and the fact that I could farm it. Now, yeah, it's kind of a trivial fight, especially with all the items in my build. The only annoying part is honestly just waiting for his invincibility phases to go by, especially considering it takes forever for him to regenerate his shield. But yeah, you kind of saw how I just melted that. That's the entire fight right there. It's literally 75% waiting. The amazing part about this fight is the first time you beat him, you are guaranteed a legendary. Every fight after that, there's a decent chance to get one, but it's not guaranteed. Still making this pretty much the best legendary and a really good glitch farm. So, once I turn in the mission, I have to run through the subconscious all over again, but after all of that, I can finally start farming some more cool weapons. After a ton of farming, that also gave me quite a few levels, I decided to finally go into True Vault Hunter mode. Now, when you go into True Vault Hunter mode, and then Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, the game does get more difficult. The weird thing is that Athena is so powerful, I'm actually getting stronger than the difficulty curve. I don't know the best way to explain it. Like, the difficulty curves up as you get through the game, but I'm getting stronger than that curve. Stronger quicker, shall I say. And honestly, there wasn't too many interesting things in True and Ultimate Vault Hunter mode. So if you remember the game loop, how normal mode went there, just imagine that, and that's pretty much how True and Ultimate Vault Hunter mode went. Except I didn't do Claptastic at the end of Ultimate Vault Hunter mode. You'll see once I get there. Realizing how easy it was going, my goal was literally just to get through True and Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, so I could start getting to max level and doing all the actual endgame stuff. The only true thing of note here is me just saying how much I hate the turret calibration section again. I died like 4 times here. I don't know why I had such a horrible time in True Vault Hunter mode, but not any of the other times. It makes no sense. The most interesting thing that happened in True Vault Hunter mode was this. While I was farming for a Thunderfire, which is a 10% drop rate, by the way, I got this gun called the Fusillade. This is a 0.1% drop from Clapdogs and some other sources and stuff like that. A 0.1% drop. What does the gun itself do? Literally nothing. It's pretty much just a legendary machine gun. It's kind of worthless. So, why am I emphasizing the insanely low drop rate? Because it took me just a ton of farms before I got the Thunderfire. However, before I got the Thunderfire, guess what? Another Fusillade. I got these drops back to back, by the way. A 0.1% drop gun instead of a 10% drop. That's just ridiculous. So, yeah, at this point I really should have known, but man, the game was just getting cursed from this point on. Especially once I got to Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, but I could start seeing signs in True Vault Hunter mode, and at the beginning of Ultimate. Something I noticed near the end of True Vault Hunter mode, and it was definitely more noticeable in Ultimate Vault Hunter mode when I was farming Eos, is I was getting quite a few weapons that had the melee prefix, which is the blade which deals more melee damage. It is my least favorite prefix. It's practically useless. Unless you're running a melee build, of course, but then you get the Excalibur gun for that. That was pretty much the most cursed part about this run, because once I got this, well, it's basically the Cobra from any of the other Borderlands games, with the melee prefix, it was only downhill from here. This disgusting party popper. You can see how the trend is going to go. So for all the ups this run had, yeah, of course something cursed is going to have to happen to balance it out. I definitely recommend watching the stream VODs, which will be in a playlist in the description, if you want to see how cursed it truly gets. It mostly happens in the last few streams, but yeah, just wanted to note that. The only thing I really changed in True Volunteer mode is, after farming EOS for a while, I decided to take the Shield of Ages right before I go into Ultimate Vault Hunter mode. That's so I can get a very high level one that will likely carry me through most of Ultimate Vault Hunter mode. The only cool thing I found in Ultimate Vault Hunter mode was Athena's logs. You know, her lore echoes. And it's actually pretty neat, because I heard some of her lore from other parts of the game, but man, her backstory is extremely dark. I think that's another part of what makes her such an awesome character. An amazing story. She was in Borderlands 1 as well. Overall, definitely in the pre-sequel. Now that I've finished the story of Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, it's finally time to start everybody's favorite experience, the XP grind. So, there are quite a few options for XP farming in this game. This one, one of the Guardians from the Guardian Hunter mission, actually respawns infinitely. You just have to turn voice lines off because that gets very annoying very fast. So it's a great source of experience, but it's a really boring farm. I mean, all XP farming is boring, but this one feels particularly bad to do. Especially because my guns aren't that amazing right now. If I had something better, it would go a whole lot faster. So that is option 1. Another popular farm is the Darksiders, since there's a fast travel right there, but I have no clue where the footage of that went. More importantly, the farm I ended up going with was Red Belly. They give an insanely good amount of experience. There's a relatively decent path if you use the closer entrance. It pretty much gives you a straight shot to Red Belly. You still have to walk all the way there, though. The only issue with this, of course, is it's going to take a long time. Any XP farm is going to take forever, but I think this is the best for the time, and it's relatively entertaining. In the middle of that, though, I decided to try out the Holodome, which, of course, is a ton of fun. I managed to get through all 5 rounds, but I died in the baddie round right at the end, so it's definitely too difficult to be worth the experience you get from it, and definitely not worth the time. I think I'm going to be sticking with Red Belly, as that's legitimately my best option. By the way, you know what got me killed, ultimately? This stupid boxy gun. It appears to be a normal SMG at first, but if you try to reload it when there's still ammo in it, it damages you, and I think that's what got me killed. Like, that is just the stupidest thing I have ever seen. I'm never touching this gun ever again. Completely unnecessary death, too. This run could have been perfect if I didn't die to that. After that, of course, I went back to farming Red Belly. Then I had an idea. Would they work with the respawning code? And, fun fact, it appears they do. Which means this cuts out all the time having to walk all the way here every single farm. That is just amazing. I can pretty much infinitely farm them here now. I only have to get new guns every few levels. This is just insane because this made farming XP so much faster. It's also around this point that I started to realize just how broken shotguns are on Athena, or multiple projectile weapons, because I believe every pellet of the gun for shotguns and like multiple lasers stacks Maelstrom, which means you can just get an insane amount of Maelstrom stacks and thus elemental damage insanely fast. That's part of the reason this farm was going so quick, is because I could keep up my stacks every single time, even though they decay quicker the more you have. Still, you can stack an insane amount in a short amount of time, which gives you crazy damage. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Either way, now that they respawn, getting XP, like I said, was a whole lot faster, making this farm even better. And after literally like 8 hours of farming or something like that, it was actually stupid. I finally got to level 70. I could finish off my build. Well, I'll go respec to get my true final build, but you know, close enough. After doing all of that farming, it's time to do even more respawning farming. That is, of course, a level 70 Akak. I'm not going to be fighting any flying enemies that require it anytime soon, but I just want to have a level 71. I'll be getting my other main Oz kit a bit later on. So here was my entire plan from the start. Instead of doing Claptastic after finishing Ultimate Ball Hunter mode, I want to get level 70 first, so then I could complete it. Which means I won't be beating it once I reset Ultimate Ball Hunter mode. This is going to be my level 70 Claptastic playthrough. You know, I said there were no flying enemies, but I guess these small flying Claptraps technically count. I mean, it's definitely worth it because they just get shredded. It's pretty beautiful. There is one gun I haven't gotten in this run yet, and since it's way too early to get the Thunderfire, I thought, might as well get it. Why not? That is, of course, the Minax Atonement, which, first of all, the Minax side mission is one of my favorite missions in this DLC. Because, you know, the Borderlands 1 DLC is also super awesome. And then just seeing Minax's complete personality change is just beautiful. The gun itself isn't crazy special. Well, besides the fact it's technically a non-elemental laser, but it fires shock, fire, and corrosive bolts that cycles between elements. So it's a pretty cool weapon, but not endgame worthy. I'll be using it for now though because it is a fun laser, and I don't have many other great weapons. At max level and Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, the denial subroutine again becomes difficult. It's also probably due to my weapons being not that great. I don't have my Thunderfire. That probably would have made this fight a whole lot easier. It also gives me a good opportunity to talk about Ultimate Vault Hunter mode in the pre-sequel. If you haven't played this game, which you absolutely should if you played other Borderlands games, you might know in Borderlands 2, if you're playing Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, you pretty much need slag to be able to do a decent amount of damage. In pre-sequel, slag doesn't exist yet. Even though it is referenced, it's not a usable element in the game. Well, by the player at least. Some guardians can actually slag you, and it's annoying. Since the developers didn't have to balance around slag, the game is a whole lot easier than Borderlands 2. And that means you don't have to have a dedicated weapon to slag enemies. You can still use whatever you want. For Athena though, I still have to swap weapons around because of her skills. The denial subroutine just took a while to kill. Nothing too terrible. Since we're level 70, I can now get my max Shield of Ages. I also saw this pretty cool Bioshock reference down here, which I thought was awesome. Anyways, the Shield of Ages. Compared to my old Turtle Shield, it's literally double the capacity. With all of my shield skills too. Yeah, that's just a casual 250,000 shield capacity. That's just stupid. Since we're in the subconscious, I think you know what else I need here. The Thunderfire, my beloved. It took a bit of farming to get, naturally, but once we got it, it is an absolute game changer at max level. Of course, I didn't get perfect parts or anything like that, but hey, it's better than not having one. The great part about streaming this run is how my viewers helped me a ton throughout the run, especially for this. Getting the support relay is super annoying because of 50 white weapons. It's ridiculously annoying to do. However, one of my viewers said that I should just farm the Eternals. I was like, dude, you're a genius. That is the best way to get white weapons without buying them. And they're getting really expensive right now. I don't make enough money for that. So that's how I got the support relay, which will be my main Oz kit when I'm fighting normal enemies, of course. The Akak is still just too overpowered against flying enemies, but they're extremely rare. If you couldn't tell, I'm currently farming gear for my final build. I kind of forgot to mention that. The next item is super annoying to get. That is the Four Seasons. It's the only grenade that I was interested in for this run. I decided to check the description to make sure of what the grenade does. When you throw it and it explodes, it first explodes into one of the 4 elements, not all 4 like I used to think, which is very sad. It's still a super cool grenade though. Would have been so much better if it did all 4, but oh well. Then I was thinking the Stormfront is definitely a better option for grenades. Unfortunately, that's just the world drop grenade pool. There's no dedicated drop source from it, so that would require a lot of grinding, and yeah, not worth it. Unfortunately, its best drop source is baddie Kragans. The best place to farm them is in Serenity's Waste by doing this little loop here. You look around, you look for a bulwark in Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, and reload the game if you haven't found one. I spent a long time doing this, but since I really wanted to use it, it is like my favorite grenade in this game. I mean, I love Teslas and area of effect grenades, so a grenade that creates all 4 elements? Yeah, I can't go wrong with that. A while later, I finally got it, and man, this thing was amazing. I didn't check the stats too close, so I don't believe this is anywhere near a god roll, knowing my luck. Well, definitely not that fuse time. But yeah, glad to get it. No more farming this. Shadow Trap and his other ground form, Eclipse, are extremely difficult. That's because I don't have all the cool bonuses from the Ak. It really just took a while to actually kill them because they're massive bullet sponges. And even though Maelstrom gives me more elemental damage, it's literally just best for me to use shock weapons. That's where this shotgun that you've seen me using for quite a while comes in. I honestly don't know when I got it. I think it was near the end of farming for level 70, just a random shotgun drop. But here's a picture of the whole thing. Now, if you look very carefully, this is literally the perfect shotgun for this build. The only thing that could make it better would be purple instead of blue. Why is it so good, you may ask? Because earlier when I mentioned each shotgun pellet applies 1 stack of Maelstrom, well, this is literally the perfect shotgun for that. It is 19 pellets, which I believe is maximum for this. That's because of the Torg barrel, which adds more pellets. The vertical grip attachment adds 1 more pellet. Matching grip, another pellet. Combine that with it being Hyperion, so it has a fast fire rate and good reload speed. It's like the best thing I've ever found in this game. I just love it. And now I'll start telling you guys about how Athena and this build actually works. One major part of it is you see me swapping weapons constantly. You see that second symbol that keeps refreshing when I swap my weapons above my XP bar? That is called Storm Weaving. That's the skill you get next to Maelstrom. Pretty much, you get fire rate and reload speed every time you swap a weapon, which means you have to keep swapping weapons. This also applies to some other stuff. Another big skill is called Elemental Barrage, which when you have Storm Weaving, by swapping weapons, you have a chance to not use bullets when you fire your gun, and it increases with your Maelstrom stacks. I did the math, and with 5 points in that skill, and once you get to 600 Maelstrom stacks, you literally fire for free with no ammo cost. The only issue is, of course, getting to 600 stacks, which with my luck is sometimes super difficult because I don't always get the free shot chance. But yeah, this is the core of this ridiculously powerful build. So I keep swapping weapons and occasionally getting a kill skill for even more fire rate. And yeah, it just gets ridiculous. It's beautiful. Not to mention the Ak, which makes it even better against flying enemies, like Eos, for example. This is what makes Athena my new favorite character in this game. I don't think any other build, at least that I've seen or can think of, can even compare to this. And just the pure amount of fun that exists. That's just the guns as well. I haven't even mentioned Aspis, which gives her stupid survivability. It can absorb, I think, like every damage type in this game, honestly. So, yeah, if you haven't played Athena, I definitely recommend giving her a try. With the story kill of Shadow Trap, he gives me a funny weapon, a nearly identical Thunderfire, but it's actually worse. Like, seriously? But hey, at least that drop is a whole lot better than the absolute comedy that was another drop. Don't know where the footage of it is, but here's it in action. A shock fusillade. Yes, my third one this run. And you guys can see just how terrible it is. Even with this build, and I'll admit it probably doesn't have best parts, but with this build, which is maximum elemental damage and everything, it's still just absolute garbage. That just goes to show how terrible that gun is. I don't want to see it ever again. I decided to pause the recording for a while because the farming was getting boring, and I may have forgotten to show the entire Sentinel fight, you know, the raid boss version of the Sentinel, so I'll show that after I beat the story again. But I just want to show the achievement because it's pretty cool. Another awesome drop is the Viral Marketeer. This is kind of like the conference call, but instead the bullets just ricochet off of surfaces. I've been trying to make this thing in the grinder for a long time in this run, and I've finally gotten it. It's actually pretty garbage. I was hoping it was better, but it's definitely no conference call. After getting a ton of weapons from EOS, I actually got a super cool drop in the Pitchfork. A shock one is pretty much perfect. I don't think the parts or prefix is good, but still, I haven't tried this gun in this game at least, and I think it could be pretty neat. You might have also noticed that my backpack capacity is way more than the vanilla game. That's literally just so I could farm and then grind a ton of weapons. I think I'll keep that edited backpack space just because it's so much more convenient and saves a ridiculous amount of time going back and forth. Now that I'm done with all of that farming, it's almost time to restart Ultimate Vault Hunter mode. But first, I decide to do one last respec. And here's my completed build. Obviously, I'm pouring most of my points into the right tree because of just how ridiculously powerful it is. But with this class mod, I will actually put 1 point into the healing skill. That gives me 6% health regeneration. It's pretty bad normally, but if you get 5 points from the class mod, it's worth dumping at least 1 for that 6% health regen. Since I have 10 points on the skill that increases Aspis duration, it actually lasts for 22 seconds. So that's about, what, 132% of your health regenerated? You know, obviously 6% per second over the duration, but still, that's pretty amazing. I also decided to try Prepare for Glory, which gives you some more gun damage when you're attacked by different enemies. I don't think it's that great, but maybe putting at least 1 point into it, especially if you're playing multiplayer. But now, Superconductor is where it's really at. Superconductor and Overload, but mostly Superconductor, is an insanely powerful skill and can get you tons of Maelstrom stacks super fast, worth putting points into, especially once you're done with your build. The only thing I regret is putting points into the Bleed melee skill. It's literally worthless if you're not going full melee. I recommend putting like 1 point into Omega Senshu or something like that. Anything else, as I never used that melee skill. The like 2 times I did, it made no difference. With that done, I restarted Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, now at level 70, and you can kind of see how it's going. I know this is the starting area and everything like that, but this is how everything seemed to go. I'm just shredding every single enemy and thing in my path. It is beautiful. I went back to complete round 1 of the Holodome real quick so I could get a new taser, and Jacob's Grip melee prefix. That is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. The only thing that could have been worse is like a worse sight on it. Anyways, I'll take it. I was gonna save edit it, but it's so cursed that I have to keep it. The taser's still pretty broken either way. Even though Deadlift is all about shock and supposed to resist it, he got melted. So, as you can maybe see, everything is extremely easy. So easy, in fact, that I decided to do the quick little secret Nell fight. I forgot about this fight until the end of the run here, and it took me a minute to figure out where all the pieces were again. Unfortunately though, I did not get a Skull Masher from him this time. Still, neat little mini-boss, and just another way to show how shreddy this build truly is. Nothing stands a chance against me anymore. Another side thing, I found the third vault symbol in Concordia for the first time. The first two are really easy, but I had no clue where that third one was. I also thought I was outsmarting the devs here by skipping this without killing the enemies, but no, you actually have to kill the enemies to open that door to complete this section. So that kind of embarrassed me a bit. Well, at least I tried. Now, considering how long I've been farming red belly in this run, take a wild guess on how it went. Well, you shouldn't really have to. They didn't stand a chance at all. I would feel bad if they didn't give me trouble so many times. It is very nice to just melt them like this, though. Have I mentioned my favorite section in the game? The turret calibration section? Hey, at least it wasn't nearly as bad as true Vault Hunter mode. Don't know why that was so difficult, but hey, I'll take anything over that. Now that I realize it, I have no clue where the bosun footage went. He dropped the cryophobia, which was pretty neat. And that's another thing I should note. The free shot chance with storm weaving, yeah, that can work with any weapon, by the way. So if you have, for example, a fully automatic Vladoff rocket launcher, yeah, you can do some fun stuff with it. So there is that neat thing that I forgot to mention earlier. Since I haven't played much Athena before, I've gotten a ton of new customizations in this run. It's actually neat to see some of them. There's a gauged one, obviously that Terminator reference, which is neat. Gynoid? Actually, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but it means like a female robot, or feminine looking robot. Something like that. I'd literally only seen that word used once before, and now I'm curious. Another great thing about doing the story at level 70, one of the best things about doing the story at level 70 now, is I can get myself a level 70 Vibra Pulse. Even though the Thunderfire is better, it's still nice to get it, especially because the parts are locked, which, that's another thing I forgot about in this run. A lot of the unique gear in this game has the parts of it locked, meaning you don't need to farm for it. The other best example is the Shield of Ages, which means you get the exact same perfect Shield of Ages every single time, no farming required. Just like the Excalibur gun as well, which I got right after getting level 70, but yet again forgot about the footage. This run is just, there's so much that it's just a complete mess to edit. The second playthrough of Ultimate Vault Hunter mode is the only other time I got all three of these perfect. It's definitely a sign of how well the reset Ultimate Vault Hunter mode went. I mean, the other great sign is Zarpedon's fight, which is less of a fight and more of just an absolute beatdown because it was so ridiculously easy. Yeah, there was absolutely no challenge in this fight, which honestly I like because Zarpedon is just a nightmare pretty much any other run. Aspis being able to absorb pretty much all the damage she can do also helps quite a bit. I'm not sure about that ground wave attack. I think that still might hurt you, but oh well, I'll take it. Easy fight. Do I really need to explain how the fighter jet fight went? Blink and you'll miss it. I'm not even kidding. So, yeah, that happened. I think this combination might be a little overpowered, not gonna lie. I'm back to the Mario secret again, not because I need XP, but because one of my viewers commented that I was stupid in doing it wrong. So there is the one loot room right there, but apparently if you jump on top, you can get access to that without killing all the enemies. Or, I never knew this was a thing. There's a separate loot room. Technically you can get both if you clear all the enemies out, but still, that's awesome. The even crazier thing is it's a warp room, so you get teleported to one of those elevators back in the main level, which makes this an even more awesome reference than I thought it was before. To wrap up the run, I was originally going to show both the normal and raid boss Sentinel fight, but I might as well just show the raid boss. Because, guess what? This might be the easiest raid boss in all of Borderlands, because it's not too much different. Like, I didn't really see a challenge difference from the normal version, which I'm very much okay with. I'm not a fan of raid bosses. The only difficulty was, of course, her bullet reflection that I had so much issues with in this run. But yeah, pretty easy besides that. In total, this run took like 60 hours. That's not as bad as the 70 hours from the Borderlands 2 run, but that's still a crazy amount considering there aren't any OP levels in this run. I guess there's just a lot more farming to make up for that. If you couldn't tell, I had a ridiculous amount of fun in this playthrough. It was super nice to do a full playthrough, especially on Athena. I think this is technically the second time because I believe I have a full level Nisha, but I don't really remember that much. And I much prefer playing Athena over Nisha. But I will need to get a Nisha run in sometime. I do kind of feel like playing her again. To be honest, there was nothing truly noteworthy about this fight. It just took a bit longer than the first one. I know I've said it so many times, but this build is literally just so powerful. I am nearly invincible. The only thing that can truly kill me is shock damage, because that's my counter. All of my health, well, okay, damage threshold is the best term for it, I guess, is in my shield. And I only have 6% health regen with no Moxie weapons. Which, speaking of, there are only a few Moxie weapons in this game, and their healing is all super low. Nothing anywhere close to the Grog nozzle. After 60 hours, you might think that I've been burned out of the pre-sequel. Honestly, kind of. But the worst part was literally just all the farming and XP leveling. I think farming isn't the worst. It really depends on what I'm going to need for a whole Nisha build. And I think I would definitely just save edit the level in instead, because it's literally just not worth the time it takes. The XP farm wasted like, I don't know, 3 streams of time, so like 12 hours or something like that. Definitely not worth it. But it'll probably be a while before I do another run in this game because of how much I played it. If you've made it this far, and I mean in general, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I want to give a special thank you to my channel members with more perks coming soon. Anyways, this is going to be Enzo from LookIntoGaming, signing out.